when I'm hiring is I ask, which is your last most successful project?
Okay.
And then I ask, what was your contribution in it? And that's a very key question because I'm asking, what is your contribution in it? 90% of the time, the person will say, these are my contributions. And I reject them straight away right there.
Oh, I mean, he told his contributions, right? Welcome to yet another episode of Founderground, where you get an inside scoop of what happens behind the scenes of making a SaaS product, the challenges faced, the hardships endured, and you get to know the overall journey directly from the founder himself. This is your favorite host, Minank, and today we have a very special guest with us, Mr. Subhanjan Sarkar, who is the founder of PitchLink, a buyer-seller engagement platform that will completely change the way we sell products during the COVID times. So, Subhanjan, the launch will be live in just 6 hours from now. And how do you feel?
I'm excited.
So people who are watching this,
Been
the launch would already be in live. You will watch. You'll be watching
planning this with
tomorrow, day after, or whenever it comes on your feed. So, Subhanjan, what got you into sales? Let's go into that first before diving deep into the pitch link.
the fact is that we all are selling all the time. It may not be a job as a salesman. If you're a father, you are selling your ideas to your child that this is what you need to be. You are selling your ideas to your wife. You are selling your employees on the vision that you have. So you are selling all the time, whether you are wearing a sales hat or not. Sales is an inevitable part of living. You may call it sales, you may call it influence, you may call it whatever, but we are all selling. So I guess if you are born, you're selling.
True. I mean, that's like a nice analogy. Like a kid is trying to sell something to his father, like trying to convince more of, you can call it. But it's all a part of sales.
Yeah,
So this is your first product, SaaS product, right?
it's the first SaaS. Yes, I have built multiple products before. We built a multilingual visual training platform, which is used by many companies in India. We have got tens of thousands of employees on those platforms. I have 3 US patents for the technologies I developed on that platform. So,
Wow.
well, yeah. So SaaS in this form, new, yes,
And you're launching with us for the very first time. And this
yeah.
is like a very nice moment for us as well. So since you had already had like multiple products before, not SaaS, how was it like to talk to your very first customer? Do you remember that time when you got on a call with your first customer, like he was
Uh,
using your product,
I think,
etc.?
yeah, I do. I think even before we spoke to the customers, I think we first had to convince some of my colleagues who are still. I mean, we are a team who have been together for the last more than 10 years. Uh, these are colleagues who have built multiple products with me. I think the first was to uh, check the feasibility of what we were thinking. So, for example, the day Elon Musk said we'll take man to Mars, he didn't have the vehicle, right?
True.
So the sale of that idea has multiple stakeholders, people who will build the vehicle, people who will get into the vehicle to test it, people who will ultimately pay and leave Earth and go to Mars for good. So these are different stakeholders who will come into the process at different times, yet you're selling to all of them. Pretty much like what I said earlier. We were dealing with very large OEMs who manufacture electronic gadgets, the Samsungs and the LGs of the world. I remember making multiple trips to their headquarters, having meetings with scores of people, and then one by one they on board. So yes, I mean I do recall, and it's all fond memories. I mean it's challenges and actually seeing feedback from folks for whom you think you are building a product. In fact, that's one thing I wanted to, I mean, I'm take the opportunity right now to say, to
Please.
me, the biggest and the most important thing for anybody trying to build something for others is to go and talk to them as early in the process as possible. I mean, most of us who build products, we love that process of building products. That's why we do it. We don't so much like people using it or not using it. The thrill is in painting a picture. He really doesn't care whether it will go up in Louvre or it will go up or somebody's going to buy it. He's painting it for the joy of it. So most of us who are building products, we build it because we love that process. But that's not going to build a business. If you have to build a business, you need to talk to folks who are supposed to pay for what you're building.
True. That's true. That's true. And you also spoke about going to their offices, getting patents done. I'm sure this must be a quite a nervous situation if you're doing it for the very first time.
Well, no, I mean, as you can make out, I'm not as young as you. So nervousness went out of the window after I proposed to my wife and she agreed to marry me. I think after that, I was not nervous at all. It,
Wow.
that was a difficult sell. Everything else is a piece of cake. No, I was never nervous. I knew that some people will see the vision, some people will not. I never walked out of a deal where I didn't make a sale disappointed, because all I came back with is that, can I analyze why these folks did not buy? And let me tell you one thing, Minank. One of the biggest reasons I built PitchLink is this experience over decades, that we believe some people will buy something, right?
Yes.
That's our analysis.
True.
Means nothing for that person. Our analysis that we have built a great visualization tool, and I'll go and tell this guy who has lots of data that you can visualize your data, and he'll say, hey, I have no problem. I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need to visualize my data. I like it. It's nice and fancy, but I'm not going to spend my money for it. You know what I mean? Buys for his own reasons, not because we go and shun. And of course, everything has an exception. You build a 3x3 gadget which can power your house. Yes, people will come and buy. You can go and sell it to anybody. But if you are selling Me Too products, which most of us are, you cannot sell them just by showing the product.
All right. So in order to make the product right, we need to get the team right. Can you tell us about your hiring experiences, like importance of building a right team? And did you face any challenges while hiring the right people to build this product?
The honest answer is all the time.
Okay.
I think finding good people is the biggest challenge. It is
I agree with you. I agree with you. Yeah.
It is the next biggest challenge after finding customers.
Okay. So first you suggest finding customers for your product.
The other way around. A lot of people say employees first. I'm saying as a challenge, the size of the challenge and the severity of the challenge.
Okay.
Look. I think Mark Cuban said, sales solves everything. Okay. So if you're finding customers, you will find your team. It's not vice versa.
Okay.
That's my take, and people don't have to agree with me. That's my take. If you find people who need your product, you are going to figure out a way to build that product. But typically our psyche is build it and they will come, because that's something we think is in our control. We think we can hire people, we think we can build it. That's in our control. So I say it goes back to the romance of building things, right? It is the moment you go out, like rubbish. And when people come and say it's rubbish, you can feel hurt and you don't want to get hurt. So you don't want to sell. But that's not going to help. That's not going to build your product. That's not going to build your business.
True. I mean, you must have had some firing experiences as well. So if you could give the founders who are watching this video, like, how do you analyze the candidate and how do you hire or when to fire, If you can go deep into that a bit.
Yeah. So see, coming to hiring, I think the match of philosophy is very critical. And firing somebody as soon as you figure out that he is not a fit is also very critical.
Okay.
Most of the time, we let people linger thinking that they will come through. Whether a person will come through or a person is not going to deliver, these are two different things. And unfortunately, most of the time we don't distinguish between the two. We think everybody will come through, and that's not true. That's not true. Everybody is not going to come through.
True.
Because that person at that point of time may be looking for another job when you think you're giving him time to come through, right? And that's fine, because if that person knows that he's not going to fit in and he's not going to deliver, he will look for another job because he has to tend to his family. He has his own compulsion. So I'm not at all judging a person here. So your ability to understand the capability and a mindset fit is critical. And your ability to ask a person to go before it is time because you have not going to fit in is equally critical. Recently, when I'm hiring, is I ask, which is your last most successful project?
Okay.
And then I ask, what was your contribution in it? And that's a very key question, because I'm asking, what is your contribution in it? 90% of the time, the person will say, these are my contributions. And I reject them straight away right there.
Oh, he told his contributions, right?
Yes. The 10% say, no, it's not me alone. We had a team. There are 6 of us. We did this and he did that. That's when I see that this guy is a team player. He's not there because the other folks are not there. He's not trying to take credit for everything.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
This is some insight that I personally got
So
myself.
say,
Yeah, this is a very nice insight which I personally got it for myself, and I'm sure the viewers who are watching this would have also got like how to find out a team player. Guys, take note. This is how you find out a team player from the lot who come to get a job in your company. That's right. You had a lot of experience in selling, etc. As raising funds, when it comes to raising funds, it's also like selling yourself or your idea to investors, right? What is your take on how to raise funds for their startup? Like tips for finding the right investor, what is the right time to raise capital, and when to get the capital,
I think venture capital money should be raised only for growth and not for proof of concept, not for product market fit, not for anything else. If you are building a product with the VC's money, you will be part of the 95% who will fail for sure, because that's the stats. It's not my stats. VCs are looking for unicorns, and that's the right thing, because they have raised money to give return to their investors. They have to find somebody who will multiply their money 10x, 20x, 100x.
True.
They're not your father-in-law. They're going to support you through your thick and thin. Right?
True.
So the point is, I believe that if you at all raise money, you must raise money for growth when everything else is set.
So raising money for growth and not for building the product.
And I follow that philosophy in this current. Yeah. So you can always go to a friend who can write you a check. That's fine, because he's giving it to you as a person. He's not really bothered about your business plan. He knows, okay, Minank will deliver on what he's saying and he'll do everything he can. And I have money, I can support him. That's fine. Don't go to a VC. Don't go to a VC. Go to the VC when you can tell him, look, I have got 200 customers who are paying me $50 every month. I have got 10,000 MRR. I have figured out if I spend $20, I can get a new customer to come in and try out my trial. And if 5 people try, 1 person buys. So my cost of acquisition is $100. And typically when people buy, I have seen people at least use us for 8 months. At $50, I get back $400, which is my lifetime value is $400. So for every $100 I invest, I earn $300. Will you give me $1 million, $1,000,000, and I will scale this to 10,000 users? That's when you should go to the VC.
Wow. Guys who are watching this, please take it backwards and listen to the pitch. That's how confident you have to be when you present yourself in front of an investor, because he wants to make his money 10x and he wants to see your confidence and get confidence to invest in your company, your idea, your startup. That was really impressive. Yeah. I didn't really expect that to suddenly you actually got in a flow, and that was wow.
Yeah. Thank you.
And as an investor, let's say you have $1 million in your bank account, which is a startup which you'd currently invest in?
Oh, there are plenty of great ideas around. I think my personal interest will be in areas where solutions do not exist, which means they're very high risk. Yet I will be able to chip in, small checks to get it started, like the friends and family round. I would like to go in really early because small checks can be written only really early.
True.
I am not trying to hedge my bets. I think I'll be happy to look, but I'm not interested in one more calendar app. I'm not interested in one more appointment app. I'm not interested in one more product visualization ad. I mean, they're dime a dozen, so those don't excite me.
Something
I
unique.
am Yeah, and some so that I think what is most important is somebody who is within an industry and he sees opportunity, and that can become a big solution for a problem that people in that industry are facing on an everyday basis. I think that's the kind of products that excite me.
Wow. I mean, okay, products which are unique and a problem that is not yet solved. Got it.
Correct. Correct.
And you have a lot of experience. You're doing pitch live here. And can you tell us where did all this began? Because entrepreneurs usually tell us that they've been selling some or the other thing during their college days, etc. So did you have like any experience? Like where did all of this began? Like when did you know that, yeah, you are made for sales and all of this?
Well, I don't really consider myself a salesperson at all. In fact, all the events where I go and speak, I say I am I am not a salesperson, which is why I'm so uniquely qualified to talk about sales.
Okay.
I'm a buyer. I'm a buyer. So one thing I tell Minang to in most of these talks is that one of the biggest myth that has pervaded the sales discourse is that there are salespeople who go and close deals,
True.
right? So even
Closers.
in CRM, you say deals closed, and you say, that guy Minank in PitchGround, he closes deals. That is the biggest steaming, bull crap that we have been fed. I can assure you, no salesperson in history, and I challenge anybody to disprove me, no salesperson in history has ever closed a deal.
Okay,
Every
this is
deal
new.
on this
This is new.
earth is closed by the buyer. If the buyer doesn't sign, there is no deal.
Okay.
You as a salesperson can't go into a company and say, hey, you guys, give me the purchase order, I'll sign it, and you'll buy it from me. Does it happen?
No,
No,
it doesn't. It doesn't.
it doesn't. Somebody signs that deal to make that deal closed, and
True.
that's not the salesperson. So the biggest change that has come about, and I'll tell you a little bit if you have time, I'll
Yes.
just tell you, this whole process of sales led selling was part of the industrial revolution, because that's when we figured out to mass manufacture.
Hmm.
The moment we mass manufactured, we had to go out and create mass demand,
True.
right?
Yep.
So when we had to go out and create mass demand, obviously you have to lead the process,
Yep.
and it was fine. Post internet, the buyer has slowly and securely got control of the buying selling process. Today we live, and make no mistake, today we live in a buyer led world. The buyer, if you are familiar with literatures of experts like Sharon Drew Morgan, you will know she talks about a 13-step buying process. A buyer goes through 13 steps before he makes a purchase, actual purchase. The
Wow.
vendor comes in on the 10th step. There are 9 steps that have happened before about which the vendor has no clue.
Okay.
So, for example, how does the buying process start? I'm in an organization. I feel I'm heading a plant and I think, oh, I need a ERP software because I'm not able to manage my inventory. I'm not able to manage the delivery and so on and so forth. Once I have that feeling, what do? I don't go and place an order. I go and tell three of my colleagues, hey guys, are you feeling this? I'm feeling this. Are you feeling this? This sort of discussion and buy-in starts. This is a 2-year process, by the way. That software will not be bought for the next 2 years because it's a multi-billion-dollar business. They have to first understand: can we solve it internally? Do we have that IT guy in the IT department? Can you call him? Can he solve something? Can he put together a spreadsheet? And that's what happens. That's what really happens,
True.
right?
True.
It is a long process. You come in as a salesperson at the very fag end, and if you want to actually engage, you have to do a lot of work to stay engaged so that you can come in a little early.
Got it.
But most of us have no time. We are impatient. We believe that somebody gives us a list today, tomorrow morning I'll do a sale. It's not going to happen, brother.
True, 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 true. I mean, this is a nice insight. 13 steps the buyer has to go through, where the vendor enters at the 10th step. Got it. I mean, that's interesting. And according to you, what is the number one quality an entrepreneur should have in today's times?
Your ability to listen.
Ability to listen.
Yeah, I mean, you may think, oh, you should be having charisma, you may have leadership quality, you should be able to imagine, you should know technology. None of those matter to me. If you are not able to listen, you will not listen to your employees, you will not listen to your customers, you will only listen to yourself. That's not going to pan out very well.
True. I mean, listening, I mean, people always talk about the hustle, the grind, ability to, work hours, but nobody actually conveys it very nicely, like the listening, which is the primary part of understanding your customer and his pain points and solving it for him.
Listening is at the core of all great relationships. We all talk about relationship, but we don't want to invest in it.
True.
We all talk about trust with the customer. We don't want to trust the customer ourselves. That's why you use tools. Today, the sales technology landscape has 1,000 tools.
True.
And 95% of them use surreptitious tracking of the customer. Surreptitious tracking without permission. And that data is shown as analytics. So, for example, in PitchLink, no data is seen by the salesperson unless the user gives explicit permission.
Okay. Wow. Especially in today's times where privacy is a major concern and everyone's talking about privacy, their phones being tapped by unknown apps taking different permissions, like call permission. Like, why does a browser need a permission for camera? Nobody really knows.
Correct. Absolutely. You got it bang on. Totally.
How does your typical day look like?
Oh, see, day obviously has changed during COVID completely, right? True. So I'm typically up by about 6 and I'm at my desk by 6:30.
So soon?
And then I work till about 9 and then I take a break for an hour and a half when I sit in my balcony, have breakfast and a cup of coffee. And then I go.
That is the one thing that I think drives all entrepreneurs. It's like the coffee. And because I've been interacting with Udit and he always like sips on this cup of coffee all the time. I think, is it like a common trait with all entrepreneurs?
I don't know. I mean, it's coffee for me. So after that, I get back to work again and I work till about 12:30. Okay. Then I take a 45 minutes break and go and do an workout. I do my exercise, then I have my lunch, and I then actually go and watch TV. Okay. I watch TV 2 and 3 every day.
Wow. I mean,
okay, that's the time I just relax. Then 3:30 I'm back at work with a cup of coffee. Again. And I work till 7:30 in the evening. Okay.
Got it.
And then depending upon if I have, because my product is focused in North America and Europe, so I have calls, I have people to talk to. I do 2 podcasts. I'm launching 2 new podcasts, so I do recordings with my guests. So all of those happen sometimes post 7:30, or they happen on Saturdays. So Saturdays normally during the day I do my recordings. So yeah, and then I try to go to sleep by 11, which I don't succeed very well these days because of COVID. I mean, just sort of get stretched. Yeah, so that's broadly what it is.
Like people say, like entrepreneurship is a really tough job, and the most impacted people are the ones in your family, because you can't give time equal time to your product, your family, etc. How does your family life, like, is it got affected with this?
Um, well, I'm sure there has been uh, scenarios where I have prioritized work, but I also prioritize family over work when it is necessary.
True.
So for example, I have never missed ever a parent-teacher meeting when my child was growing up.
On the
I'll tell you
contrary,
something.
yeah, on the
Sorry.
contrary, I've never told about my parents about the parent teacher meeting that happens in schools or colleges.
see, see, way back in 1999 or 2000 TiECon in the Silicon Valley, I was there, and one of the keynote speaker was Guru Raj Deshpande. Just check him out. He's one of the stalwarts of the Indian IT diaspora worldwide.
Wow.
Okay, he heads Deshpande Foundation. You should. I mean, whoever doesn't know Guru Raj Deshpande should go and check him out. I
All
should
right.
not talk to him. He's a
I'm
big man.
got
Okay.
it.
So Guru Raj Deshpande was giving this keynote speech at TiECon, and he said, "We all have multiple balls in the air in life, right? There is a ball of passion, there is a ball of professional work, there is a ball of wishes, there is a ball of friends, so on and so forth. And all these balls, except one, are made of rubber. So if the ball drops, the ball will bounce right back. There is one ball though, which is made of glass, and
Okay.
that ball is called family.
Oh,
Never ever drop that ball. Every other ball is going to bounce back. Your career, your profession, your whims, your fancies, all the balls will bounce back if you drop them. Family, never drop it. It has stuck with me, and I think it makes complete sense.
I'm sure all entrepreneurs would note this down. Whoever is watching this, never drop the ball of your family, guys. It can be everything can bounce back, but not your family. They
Yes.
have the highest importance because all the time, what are we doing this for? I mean,
Yeah.
to make our family, ourselves, and our family happy, right? That's the
Yeah,
ultimate thing.
absolutely.
And how do you got the idea of PitchLink? You know,
Oh,
is it like a
so
coffee
as I
shop
said, I think
idea where you were discussing it with somebody and suddenly it led to something else, or?
no. It's not as dramatic. Actually, it has been a realization over a period of time that selling is really hard. Selling is not easy, which is why we all look for tools. We all look for trainings. We are reading books. There are hundreds and thousands of books on how to sell. There are hundreds and thousands of podcasts on how to sell, right? So, so it is a hard thing. And I sort of felt that we have got it all wrong. And we have to start thinking. We are basically trying to answer the wrong question. And the question we are trying to answer is, how do we make selling easy? Right?
Question, yeah.
That's the that's the question we are trying to answer. How do we make selling easy? I think that's the wrong question. The real question is, how do you make buying easy?
All right.
If you make buying easy, sales will happen. If you make sales easy, buying may or may not happen.
Got it.
And that sort of led me to examine what is a buying process. And I said, I'm not a salesperson. I'm not a career sales guy. I mean, I'm a product guy. Okay. So when you examine it close, you will see that this whole process is very complex and messy.
True.
This 13 steps that I told you for the buyer has to go through, and he is going to go through it with 20 people in his department. You think it's easy to continuously keep everybody in the loop, keeping everyone on the same space and understanding and talking and so on. So my thought was, we have problem getting meetings, we have problem getting phone calls, we have problem sharing documents, because I'll send it out something, they'll say it has not come through Google Drive, you send permission issue. After I send it, he has to download, manage it, he has to share it with his
Yeah,
colleagues, they have to manage it, they start writing mails, and then suddenly my one proposal mail has become like 7 mail threads.
that's a
It's
lot of
messy, right?
yeah.
So my thought was, is it possible to reduce this whole thing into a single link?
Okay.
All these things that I told, can it be reduced to a single link? That was the brief with which we started. And I think we have gone pretty close to it.
I'm sure, guys, if you can check PitchLink out, it would already be out by this interview while you're watching this. You can check it out, take a free trial, and see if Subhanjan had got close to that. Since you
Absolutely.
already spoke about, yeah, you were telling something.
No, I said absolutely. They should check it out and tell me how close we have got.
Yeah, since you were already telling about books and podcasts,
Yeah.
which is your like the good favorite book when it comes to reading and
No, it's a difficult question to answer, but I can tell you one book which I was
or maybe
really
a book which had like a profound impact on you. We can totally
well.
reframe.
I read a lot, so I cannot say that one particular book has had an impact. I mean, that will be unfair to the rest of the books. But Rand Fishkin's book, Lost and Founder,
Founder.
is
Yeah.
one of my latest favorites. Yeah,
Wow. I mean, I
and
think
Rand was on my Bits About Books podcast a few weeks back. But I'm not saying because he was a guest on my show, but because I really liked his book.
so. The podcast link is live on Spotify and other platforms.
Yes, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, Bits About Books, guys, go and check it out.
The link would be in
I
the description, guys. I'll be keeping the link in the description. Do check it
thank
out.
you, thank
Yeah.
you, thank you.
What if a SaaS founder is starting out in today's times? In these uncertain times, what is the number one advice that you would like to give them?
Talk to the customer.
Yeah.
Talk to the customer. Even before you have written a single line of code, talk to the customer.
Got
You'll be
it.
surprised.
Well, that's a nice advice. And here comes the most important and the most interesting question of them all. Since all of the people who invest in lifetime deals can be called as early stage mini investors, I would like to give you 90 seconds to pitch to them about what is PitchLink, why they should be getting PitchLink. It's like an elevator pitch, but you only get 90 seconds. I'm gonna on the timer, and whenever you're ready.
Uh, I mean, I should go on record on this. I think 90-second and elevator pitches are completely bad ideas, but I'll do it for you. Let's
Yes.
go. Let's go.
Yes. And the timer goes on now.
B2B selling is failing with a meager 5% success rate. Buyers now control the process. The Pitch.link SaaS platform enables private, secure buyer-seller communication, conversation and collaboration, interruption and friction-free on a single, unique, personalized link. So what do? One, make buying easy using standardized value communication, personalized at scale, and as dynamically as a face-to-face meeting without interrupting the prospect. Two, then continue the conversation with multiple stakeholders within a single interface till completion. And three, while providing complete control of privacy to the buyer. How did I do?
Okay. Okay. I have to tell this to you guys. This is one of the most shortest pitches that has ever happened in Founder Ground. And Usually entrepreneurs end at like 65 seconds, which which was our like record. But now this is 42 seconds, and that is insane. You still have so much time to go through. I mean, if you want to add anything to it.
More to say.
Seriously, I mean, never under a minute. It has never been under a minute until now. Oh, all right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now comes the rapid fire round. You need to be as quick as possible, as short as possible.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
All right. What do you consider to be the biggest win so far that matters to you?
Building a great family.
All right. And tea or coffee?
Coffee.
All right. Which is your favorite city?
Bangalore.
That's because you stay there?
I love Bangalore. I've stayed all over the world. I love Bangalore.
Okay. Yeah, you told about Silicon Valley, etc. How many hours do you sleep in a day?
7.
All right. What does failure mean to you?
Learning.
What do you wish you had known when you started out?
That you need to focus on the customer. We all know it, but we deviate. We sort of get carried away with our thoughts. It's the most important thing in business.
All right. So what's something which you failed at?
Skiing.
Or like, did you like...
I couldn't do it. I just fell. Every time I tried till now, I just fall flat. I just couldn't get it.
Got it. That's interesting. I mean, skiing, I've never tried it out personally myself, but I'm going to try it out.
Yeah. No. I mean, everybody tries and they do it. I mean, in front of me, my wife just got on and she went. But I just couldn't. I fell flat thrice. And I said, it's not for me. I failed.
There's just some things which you don't get it. And that's all right.
Yeah.
And skiing is just one of those things.
Yes. Absolutely. You never know. I might try it again.
Yeah. And so guys, that brings us to the end of this interview. We hope you got some value out of this. And why do we conduct these interviews? Why do we conduct Founder Round? It's because it's not the tech or the product or a software that can help you succeed in life, because we believe it's the person behind that product, their experience, that's their knowledge that actually translates into the product. Guys, thank you so much for watching this. Share it with your friends if you found any value. Take a screenshot, upload it, share it in our group, and let's have a discussion. Thank you so much, Subhanjan, once again, for joining us today on this episode of Founder Ground.
Thank you, Menon. Thank you.
See you.